founder of a Melbourne-based IoT startup called GeoWAN. We work in... Got my slides, please? Thank you. Okay, we're an Australian Internet of Things provider, and today my talk will be focused around IoT and you, more so the individual. IoT, as our company is seeing it, there's four main areas that it's segmenting off to: smart cities, smart industry, smart rural applications, and ag tech. One necessarily does complement the other. And IoT and you. Some people may call that consumer IoT. The explanation that we've given to a smart city is the ongoing practice of creating a city with enhanced quality and performance of service to reduce costs and enhance livability for the citizens and visitors. And one of our speakers before made a very good point about the world's population growing. The United Nations estimates also that the amount of people in cities will be disproportionate to their current levels, where 70% of the world's population will be in cities. These people will need food to eat, and these people also need jobs to work in. Industry, if not regulated and not done in an efficient way, can also pollute these people, which is happening in some places in the world. So smart industry needs to focus on computerizing manufacturing and industrial practices for a positive impact on society, governance, and the environment. As people are moving to cities, they're going to need places to work. Those places, therefore, have to ensure that the people are maintained healthy. Smart rural is a practice of observing and measuring and responding to situations with the aim to optimize returns while preserving resources and reducing management intensity. The main core of reducing management intensity and the main issues with it is that as we are seeing a shift of people moving to cities, there may not be people left out in rural communities that may actually be working on the field. Once again, the people in the cities, on the other hand, don't have the space to actually grow their own food. And you. So we found that all of us is the one common thing across these other three sectors. Humans live in cities. Humans require industry to work. They require food. So it's all about us. With a lot of focus going on to smart cities and other types of industries, we do see on our day-to-day level this disillusionment between the person who's actually buying an IoT device and the concepts of smart cities and all of that. So some key factors of IoT management for the individuals that we have found is that a lot of them have to have autonomous power sources, some of them perpetual. In fact, we've got some devices coming for our trials here in Australia that essentially are solar powered. That's even a cow tag. So a cow's ear tag, and as the cow's going around in the field, it essentially never needs a battery change. Non-cellular, certain communication protocols. GeoWAN operates in the wide area network spaces, and we also incorporate local area networks such as Bluetooth and Wi-Fi into some devices to make sure that we can get long-range connectivity and also short-range if it's required for the particular solution. One key aspect that we are seeing in a lot of tests that we're doing is the resilience to interference of devices. We follow the LoRaWAN protocol, and that operates in the ISM band. Now, to go around this, we found that to deliver a good level of customer service, we actually occupy the full ISM spectrum with our gateways, which is a 64-channel gateway. And we do this so that we can see which channels are overflooded, and then we can allocate the bands and change as we require to the specific solution. We can also allow councils to have their designated bandwidth for their smart parking, smart street lighting solutions to ensure that the delivery of service is high. And we're also seeing the emergence of non-GPS locationing through RSSI triangulation and fingerprinting. These are all relatively new technologies, some of them quite accurate, up to about 3 meters. These all have aspects to do with you. One use case that I will make mention of is your belongings, your house, your environment. People have a requirement to have devices that are small and discreet, scalable, low power, low cost. The ability to remote monitor, so monitoring remotely, and also mobile access. Part of the reason why consumer IoT is of interest to my company is that as people are becoming more and more time constrained, they are looking at technology to solve some of these issues. It could be whether someone's opened their front gate, or if it's someone taking their caravan at 3 a.m. in the morning when they're still in bed. So one of the use cases that I've put up is a connected pet. You've heard of this story a lot, so I'm not going to claim that I'm the first in the world to do it. But the one thing about it is it's the emergence of different segments as to why people are buying IoT devices or solutions. We can see that pets have a strong emotional tie with humans, whereas other types of connectivity and devices may just focus on getting a job done. But if we incorporate the fact that it could also be an elderly person, it's an emotional reason to buy into IoT and use IoT devices. And we've had IoT devices around us for 20 years. What's emerging is the networks are getting larger. We've successfully tested here in Melbourne 60 kilometres across the bay. So we're able to cover a long area with a really relatively simple form of communication protocol. So the pet monitoring was developed to communicate location and other information, movement, these types of temperature. Pets, certain types of breeds are also very sensitive to external temperature. Staffies, for example, don't really like 40-degree days. So the owner, while he's at work, can log in and see if their pet is actually healthy in their environment. And also an event. An event can be geofencing. So if your dog does go missing, you are notified within 10 metres of it leaving the geofenced area. These are some of the things that up until now have been limited as to how efficiently they could be delivered to the customer based on the battery capabilities and the life of it. So the aim of that test that we did was for time alerts, focused on events, understand the pet's physical world remotely, always to be connected with the world and your pet, and find the pet quickly and easily. We actually did have the dog go missing at that time. We didn't leave the gate open. The dog just literally got out with the tracking device on it, and it was quite amazing to see how quickly the system alerted that the dog was in a particular area and you could find it. Also with these types of networks, we are seeing that, especially with LoRaWAN, people can own their own network. People can purchase a LoRaWAN gateway, set up a perimeter around their house with a 2 kilometre radius, and they can do a number of things with the little gateway, which is about the size of a little router. So the consumer can take their IoT devices on and manage their whole network without having to rely on external networks or coverage. This, once again, can be spread across all of the other 3 areas. It can be done in smart cities where people or a council may have a specific small area that they only want to focus on and have a dedicated network for it. Same as in industry, same as in agriculture. If a vineyard wants to have their own LoRaWAN network. It takes probably 2 hours to set it up, and they're able to go with no reliance on an external internet service provider. So generally how these solutions are delivered to consumers is you generally have a network. There has to be a layer of communication from point A to point B. The IoT environment needs to be set up where that, where the whole of the device, solution, purchaser, and the use case are all brought together. That's all tied through a matrix of client-specific solutions. The dog tracking solution is considerably different to a solution that somebody would track somebody with dementia or something on. They're very, very different. They have very, very different protocols, different batteries, different types of end devices. And then the delivery of the total solution. Every single customer up until now has had various differences in their requirements. And that flexibility that companies can offer to a potential customer is something that I find is very, very important. IoT is about delivering something that the consumer expects. And with the more and more people coming into the IoT space, the reliance on actually the interpersonal agreements that you come up with when somebody purchases something from you will set people apart. So Australia is a very dynamic market. We have roughly about 6 countries that we operate in or use partners. And we find that having the ability to have long-range networks gives people comfort in knowing that they'll have coverage in a lot of places. If it's not really a place where there's a good layer of coverage, we can easily put a gateway in, as I mentioned. Australia's also got a high disposable income. We do get a lot of interest from people on very broad range IoT solutions. I had one lady ask me about if it was possible to have her handbag tracked, and I said absolutely, no problem. We can sell you the device, we can create you a solution for that, and you can know if someone's stealing your $4,000 Louis Vuitton, no problem. Part of the reason also why Australia is different to other markets that we work in is because we are time poor. There's a lot of people who are asking us for consumer IoT solutions where they can essentially track their child going to school who's 10 years old. They want to know where they are because they have to be at work by 9 a.m. Some people 8 a.m. and often children are left to themselves to get to school. And having that contact with parents is something that they're finding very, very useful, and there is a demand for it. We do have a tech-savvy population. My family is in Central Europe, and I can tell you that the amount of people on Facebook that are over 50 years old and 60 in Australia is considerably higher than most of the parts of the world that I've been to. Facebook is a very good example of how people are using technology to engage with each other, talk to relatives, vice versa, and also having that mindset already of an established acceptance of new technologies is giving IoT a very, very easy acceptance, especially when we take cost into consideration. Sometimes certain solutions now may cost 50, 30. Well, there are child tracking devices on their mobile phones or applications. Some of those are $30, but we're seeing an emergence where the market is actually accepting or wanting to accept between $3 and $6 for a solution per month, which is considerably lower than having $30 for one mobile phone, some parent app. And the emotional versus choice. We have seen that there are a number of emotional choices, and I've gone into that, but sometimes we have other areas as well. Now, the choice can be seen as a choice to or a choice not to. People have a choice whether they want to sign up to certain different protocols and ways, and especially when it comes to their data being shared. Do people want, if I had a tracking device on my child, do I want somebody knowing that that's my child going to school. So being able to offer these types of guarantees to customers is also a way that you can work out exactly what the customer's relying on, as opposed to just saying, here's my offering, and there we go. There's also one more there, and I didn't put it up there because I didn't know whether I wanted to go into it, but there's also a different thing about legislative. There currently are IoT devices, we can call them that. They are called interlocks. And that is that's legislative, that if you are caught drink driving, you receive an interlock, which is essentially an IoT device. It's capable of taking a reading, it's capable of taking a photo, it's capable of reporting all of your data back to Vic Roads and the police. So will legislation one day affect IoT and people? How will government go on to these types of new technologies coming out and also accept them? Security. With the example I used before of the child being tracked, naturally all of the data should be encrypted on a device level, on a network level, and also on an application level. That's my recommendation. That's the way that our company does it. Compliance is also very important for the devices and also the people selling them, being compliant towards the Australian standards in certain bandwidths. The privacy of the data. With the recent regulations on data retention and these types of laws come out, really companies have now inherited the risk of holding on to that data. So will we see new ways that data will be held where it's up to the individual to make sure that that data is compliant? These are some things that we've been looking into, especially with blockchain, as to having the person who is the consumer of our IoT product to actually take on the responsibility towards the data retention. Remote access. A lot of the applications and solutions do need to be remotely accessible by people. And your choice of vendor, your choice of service provider, your choice of all these different things does lead into the path of interoperability, which some of the gentlemen did mention before. Naturally, certain devices won't be able to communicate on different networks, but nevertheless, having that choice of saying, I'm not happy with this network provider, I'm going to that network provider, I don't want your device, I want to bring my device, is also something that could be very, it is currently evolving, but I'm going to be able to see more of this coming through in the next next 6 months, I'd say. And I was told about questions, but none of those. No time for that, so thank you all.
Please thank Tim Cara. And all I can say is if you can get the machine to feed the dog, that would certainly help in my family.
Maybe one day.
Maybe. Thank you, Tim.